And welcome into the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanstreamSports.com, the debut show, the first of, let's say, keep our fingers crossed, many. Yours truly sitting in for the next hour and a half or so. We'll see how the first show goes. We'll be here Monday through Friday, right around 2 o'clock Eastern time, depending on what happens each day. But figure Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, right here on FanstreamSports.com. What are we going to talk about? NFL says, screw you, Brendan. Did the Heat get burned in the Giannis trade? Did Wyndham get a false win at the U.S. Open? If a tie is like kissing your sister, we're hoping soccer fans have good-looking sisters. What is Edmonton doing? Who's beating the Florida Panthers? And Serena is back. We'll get to all those stories, little interaction as well over the next hour and changes. So right here on FanstreamSports.com, FanstreamSports.com. What's going on, LLs? How are you on this terrific Tuesday? We are live just after 2 o'clock Eastern time. Whole lot to get to, including a breaking story that just popped over the wire literally a couple of minutes ago, and that is the NFL basically telling Brandon Sorsby, screw you, we don't want you. This is like a man without a country. I figured we'd start with the Miami Heat. We got the NFL draft later on today, but the NFL in its supplemental draft was supposed to draft Brandon. Somebody was, right? They were saying second or third round, and that was not going to happen, right? The last time anyone was drafted, I don't know if anyone's ever been drafted in the second or third round, to tell you the truth. Usually it's fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe even seventh round. And they have this draft, if you're not familiar with it, it's a post-NFL draft for guys that think they want to stay in college. They find out they can't. They find out they change their mind, whatever the case may be, and they hold this, i.e. supplemental draft, right? So he falls into this category. We know his story. We'll get into it here in a second. And he figured he would be drafted, and there are a bunch of stories over the last couple of days because he just made this announcement last week. He was going to forego, his days at Texas Tech and go to the NFL. And whether it was going to be the Jets or the Dolphins or, all the other teams that needed a quarterback that they were going to take him, maybe I saw as high as a second round. I was like, there's no freaking way. Leave it to the dopey Jets. They probably would have to tell you the truth. But ultimately, the NFL said, you know what? This brings too much baggage, too much baggage, and we're not going to have a supplemental draft this year. They have the option, and that also tells me that they reached out to a bunch of teams and said, "Are you going to draft this guy?" And even the dopey New York Jets with Geno Smith, who's got his own issues, right? After finding out what he allegedly did yesterday, I don't think the Jets would want to hop in on Brandon Sorsby. I don't think any other team would either. So I think they reached out to a bunch of teams that might be interested in him, and they all said, no, we got to find out more. So the NFL did a little backtracking, and instead of having a draft and him not get drafted, which does happen, that they've had drafts where no one got drafted. It's not that big a deal, but I just think the NFL said, no, we don't want to do it. And it's against guys like a man without a country. There's no doubt in my mind what happened at Texas Tech. Unfamiliar with the story, plays at Wisconsin, doesn't really play, makes a whole lot of bets, including games with Indiana, right? Not Wisconsin. I keep on thinking he was at Wisconsin for some dopey reason, but Indiana. So doesn't play at Indiana, makes some 90 or so bets, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars when everything totals up. So it's not like a one-time here, put $100 on Indiana, right? I think we're going to lose, which they did when he was there. This was a number of bets, some serious bets that he made on his team that he was playing. Never apparently bet against them, but you begin to wonder about that too, right? So bottom line is he doesn't play, transfers to Cincinnati last year, has a great season, pretty good quarterback. I don't think he was anything special over the last two seasons. I really don't. But that said, I had a pretty good year. And in the world of NIL, Texas Tech comes in and says, you know what, we'll pay you thousands of dollars, probably millions of dollars, forget thousands, millions of dollars. You come to Texas Tech and you'll be our quarterback. And he says, okay. So he goes to Texas Tech. Then the story breaks about all his gambling. Why it took that long, I don't know, because this happened 3-4 years ago when he was at Indiana. It didn't happen at Cincinnati. It happened even before that. So it took him forever to figure out that he was gambling. And then a whole bunch of people got involved, including the government. And then the government says, you know what, even though NCAA says you can't play because you gambled, well, it's 2026. You actually can play college football, which is so mind-boggling. And it got people so ticked off that schools were threatening to not play Texas Tech in not only football, all the other sports, because they blamed the Texas Tech front office, athletic department, the whole kit and caboodle on supporting this guy. So all the pressure came. The Big 12, which is what the conference that Texas Tech is in, got involved as well. They said, this can't happen. What are we going to do? Blah, 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 blah. So cooler heads, if you will, prevailed. And the wallet got opened again. And Texas Tech eventually said, and it didn't really take that long. They said, you know what, Brandon, we tried, we failed. So you know what? Take the money. Whatever NIL money we were guaranteeing you or maybe even gave you up front, go ahead, take it, but just be on your way. So instead of him, leaving college with no money, which what people didn't understand, well, why would he just go to college? Or why would he just go to the NFL? Because he was passing up millions and millions, literally, of dollars. These quarterbacks nowadays get $4, $5, $6, $7 million. I don't know how much he got, but again, forget the hundreds of thousands. It's in the millions. So he's like, I'm not going to leave that and go to a supplemental draft and get drafted in the 5th round by the New York Jets and make, NFL league minimum, which is not even $1 million. Why would I do that? That's stupid. So I think Tech came up, and says, you know what, take the money. Take the money that you thought you were going to make here in college and just move on. We tried, we failed, and that's that. So that led up to today. He's supposed to get drafted in a supplemental draft, and now the NFL today says, you know what, no thanks. We don't want you. So, listen, there are a lot of bad guys, we'll just say, a lot in the NFL. And as much as the NFL and all the other sports are all tied into gambling, I mean, you can't watch a sporting event now without seeing a gambling ad. I mean, it has gotten so over the top. You can watch a hockey game and they're betting how many saves the guy is going to make in between the periods, how many shots on goal. Same thing with basketball. In between the first and second quarter, they update the DraftKings or FanDuel lines on all these players. I mean, it really is just crazy what you'll see on TV these days with gambling. But despite all that, all these leagues still kind of have that, well, we're in bed with you guys, but we really don't want to have sex with you guys. That's really what I mean. We'll hop in bed with you. It's kind of like the wife, right? We'll hop in bed, but any hanky-panky, forget about that. That's not happening. So anytime they get wind of someone gambling, they really do we can't have this. The NBA deals with it from time to time. There's been a number of issues, right? It's a black stain in the NBA. I don't doubt it's happening all over sports, all over. I remember talking about this. It's funny how you bring things up and no one really believes you. It's like, yeah, whatever, Scott. You just yapping, right? And then it's turned out to be it's true. And you're like, wow, you know what? I hit a home run on that. And I remember talking about this years ago, even before gambling really became legal. I said the days of fixing games and making sure your team loses is over. That is beyond old school. Even the days of you winning but not covering the spread is old school. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is just fix some of these props. And exactly what has happened has happened. And I remember talking about it with the guys on the podcast. It's like, all you have to do is just make sure you don't get your 7-8 rebounds. Or all you have to do is make sure you don't get your 6 or 7 assists. Or make sure you don't score your 18 points. You score 16. Who cares? Right? I mean, there's so many different bets. You can bet on how much a guy's going to score or have an assist and rebounds in the first quarter. If you're smart about it, it's not very difficult to make extra money. But the gamblers, the guys that are doing these things, a lot of them anyway, are dumb. And that's how they get caught, because they'll put a $100,000 bet on Billy Bob scoring 5 points in the first quarter under. It's like, who does that? Once that happens, bells and whistles go off. They realize that. But if they just kept the bets to a minimum and even made bets to the over, the under is the one thing you absolutely categorically can control the under. But I've always said, if you really want to do this the right way, you tell your guy, go over tonight. I'm going to go over my 10 rebounds, 8 rebounds, whatever. I can't guarantee it. But if we do this 20 times, I bet you we go at least 15-5, if not 16-4. If you, the gambler, the degenerate who wants to fix these things, is willing to accept that we're going to have a couple of losses thrown in there, you can cash in on the other 16 win. That's how you really do. That's the next step. The first step was, go under. But again, the bells and whistles go off. because you can control that. You realistically can't control an over. But if you're willing, if you have in your mind, I got a bet at 8 rebounds, and I'm sitting here at 7 with 5 minutes left, and we're up 10, whatever. Well, if there's no bet, I'm just, I may get 7. Who cares, right? But if you have to get 8, there is that extra little, get out of the way, Billy Bob. I'm getting this rebound. I know you're standing there, but I'm getting a rebound because my guys got over 7.5. So that's how you do it. Not that you need a lesson on how to fix things. But this guy was a dope. He bet a whole bunch of bets, and the NFL doesn't want any part of that. So will he eventually get in the league? Maybe. But he may have to prove himself and go up to the CFL and go play up there, or, one of these goofy arena football leagues. But I just think it's funny that the NFL today said, no, we don't want you. Interesting. Looks like the trade's going to go down with the Miami Heat being the big winners, if you want to call it that, with the Milwaukee Bucks for the Greek freak, who's really not Greek, as we like to call him on the podcast, the Giannis. I'll tell you, on the surface, it looks like Miami gave Milwaukee the better of the deal. And one thing I didn't realize also is that Tyler Hero is actually from Wisconsin. So that's a little extra like, okay, you know what? If we're going to pick, a star player, we'd rather have a homegrown guy that we know has got a pretty good chance of wanting to stay here and versus being here for a year or two and moving on. So, but that said, and you look at the deal, right? Supposedly it came down to Boston and Miami. And Boston was apparently offering Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round draft choices. Don't know when those first-rounders were. Miami, on the other hand, was offering Tyler Hero, pretty good player, Clell Weir, pretty good player, Jaime Jaquez, remember the former UCLA guy, pretty good player, 3 first-round draft choices, including tonight's number 13th overall, a pick swap as well, and just for good measure, a second-round pick. Now, that on the surface, that sounds a little bit better than what Boston's offering, right? But I will tell you, if you throw out the Heroes from Wisconsin angle, he's a good player, but he's not Jaylen Brown. Ware's a pretty good player. Jaquez is a pretty good player, but they're dime a dozen players. They're pretty good players like that all over the place. This Gasparis Jakunas dude, he's a first-round pick from last year, young guy, so who knows what he's going to turn into. But you got 3 first-round picks that the first one outside of tonight is 2031. Then they got a pick swap for 2030, first-rounder in 2031, and a first-rounder in 2033. The Milwaukee Bucks GM could be dead by then. I mean, literally, he could be. That's 7 years from now. I mean, what kind of trade is that? Who cares? If you're Pat Riley, who, oh, by the way, is 81 years old, he doesn't care. He literally could be dead by 2033, right? He's certainly not going to be the president, GM, president, boss of the Miami Heat. The Milwaukee Bucks guy, same thing. So I understand the Heat standpoint. Oh, yeah, you want 2030, 2031, 2033, whatever. Go ahead, take them. I'm not going to be around. We'll let some other schmuck deal with that. I want the best player in the draft, and that's Giannis by far. So the Bucks are getting a decent local hero, pardon the pun, in Tyler Hero. Couple of players you could pick up anywhere, and draft choices where the current GM of the Bucks more than likely is not even going to be there to benefit from. So I would much rather have had, again, I don't know what the Boston trade was with the first round picks. Let's assume that they were in the 230s as well, 2030, 2031, whatever the case may be. I'd still rather have Jaylen Brown than those 3 guys. NBA, more than any other sport, it's whoever got the best player wins the draft or wins the trade. And that does happen, I would say, realistically, 8 out of 10 times. And this is one where the Heat just kind of piled on. What's more worse than junk? That's more junk. They just kept on piling on the junk before the Bucks finally said, okay, I guess we'll take it. The Brooklyn Nets did that, when they traded away a whole bunch of their players, and they got 50 zillion draft choices. Where are they now? Those draft choices are worthless if you don't know what you're doing. And they're so far down the line. So I'm a little surprised the Bucks ended up taking this one. I got a funny feeling if Hero wasn't from Wisconsin, they would have taken Jaylen Brown. Even if Jaylen Brown said, I'm not coming. You know what? I don't want to go. Then you make the trade anyway, and then you tell Jaylen Brown, all right, we're going to trade you. Well, we'll just trade you again. So we'll get Boston's, 2 first-round draft choices, and then we'll get a slew more for you. And in the end, we get 5 or 6 draft choices that maybe are a little bit better than what they have now. So, but I tell you what, the Eastern Conference, boy, it is amazing how things have flipped in the NBA. Not that long ago, and I'm talking literally 2 years ago, maybe last year, not counting this previous season, the one before that, the Western Conference was the best team going, or the best conference going, without a shadow of a doubt. But not anymore. You look at the Eastern Conference. First of all, you start with the world champion Knicks. Then you have the Boston Celtics, who have to kind of make amends with Jaylen Brown and win him over. And I was saying on the podcast earlier today that generally means we're going to give you a new contract. Do not be surprised if over the next week or so you hear a contract extension for Jaylen Brown, just to kind of say, all right, you know what, we really love you, Jaylen. We weren't looking to trade you away. That's how you get them back on the same page. So you got the Knicks, the champion Knicks. You have the Celtics, who are going to be good. Oh, by the way, you have the Pistons, which had the best record in the Eastern Conference. You have an improving, Atlanta Hawks team. Cleveland, I don't know if they keep James Harden or not, but even if they don't, and I think they will, even if they don't, they're good. Had this, second best record in the NBA 2 years ago. You have a Miami Heat team that now has Giannis and Adebayo. I don't know what else they're going to fill out. Maybe they go get James Harden. But there's got to be free agents that now are going to look at Miami and say, wow, you know what? I want to be on that team. So you have the Miami Heat. Heck, that's not even counting Philadelphia with Embiid. Philadelphia figures to bounce back if he's going to be healthy. And even the worst team in Washington, with the first overall pick, they re-signed Trae Young. They do have Anthony Davis, who we all know is an injury waiting to happen. But, if they can get him to stay healthy, and then they got the first overall pick on the board tonight in the draft, even the lousy Washington Wizards will be a team that you can't automatically say that's going to be a win. I mean, and then you throw in, 2 improving teams in Charlotte and Orlando. Wow. The Eastern Conference, outside of maybe, and oh, by the way, Indiana goes to the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They should get Halliburton back. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but they lost some pieces from that team. But still, you got to figure they're going to be halfway decent. I would say outside of even the Bucks will be good. They'll be a 500 team, kind of like Miami was this past year with those guys. Probably outside of Chicago Bulls and Brooklyn Nets, there's not an automatic W on that schedule in the Eastern Conference. I mean, and this is a big if, right? And it's probably not going to happen. But if the NBA players took the regular season seriously next year, man, that is one terrific game after another. The battles that they're going to have next year to make the playoffs, get as a high seed, get home court advantage. It could be a lot of fun. This could be, now that Miami's back in the mix, one more team. Boy, that really could be a lot of fun in the Eastern Conference. Western Conference, you have basically 3 teams and maybe 2.5, right? You have OKC and you got San Antonio. You have a Denver team, but I begin to wonder about the Joker. He's been through the battles. They haven't really improved. They haven't made a big-time signing for him. I wonder if their time has come and gone a little bit. But I'll throw you Denver. Other than that, the Lakers are a year older. They suck. Rockets and Durant, year older. They stink. Minnesota just seems to be hanging around, decent team, but not really championship caliber. They traded away, apparently, Julius Randle, addition by subtraction, I'm sure, but still, it's one less piece that was pretty good in the regular season, not postseason. Portland, a 500 team last year, could get a little bit better, but they lose their head coach. He's now with the Bulls. Phoenix is mediocre. Clippers mediocre. Golden State's past its prime. New Orleans, Memphis suck. Sacramento sucks. Utah blows. You want to tell me Dallas with Cooper Flag could be a little bit better? Yeah, maybe, but not championship caliber. I mean, realistically, it's going to be San Antonio and OKC again next year. That's it. Compared to, the Eastern Conference, where maybe you only have a couple of elite teams in the East, but it's going to be a war year in, year out, or game in and game out. So Giannis looks like he's going to the Miami Heat. And as a Celtic fan, not the end of the world. I would have rather traded Jason Tatum, to tell you the truth, than Jaylen Brown. But both were expendable to me. I wouldn't have complained had they made the deal. I was hoping they would have. I'll go for a championship. I'm kind of done with this team. We've lived through this team, whether it was with Brad Boy Wonder Stevens or Udoka or now the current head coach. They're all one championship. Jaylen Brown's been in the league 10 years. Jason Tatum's been in the league 10 years. They're not a young group. And as a Celtic fan, we're so sick and tired of coming up short, except for the one championship. That's it. They realistically should have at least 2, if not 3. So I would have been okay with it. I really would have. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and Miami gets them. So I see Dusty May is going to the Dallas Mavericks. Look like that's a done deal. Just kind of dot the I's, cross the T's. He's the Michigan head coach, or former Michigan head coach. Word is that they were going after the Dookie Pukey head coach, John Shire, Dallas was, with the connection to Cooper Flagg. And he apparently said no. So next in line was May. And, the Twitter world, a lot of guys reporting that there are going to be some issues with this Michigan program. And that's one of the reasons why he kind of jumped out of town. He was only there 2 years. I mean, you think about a guy's life changing. I mean, think about this. Dusty May was head coach at Florida Atlantic 3 years ago. I mean, Florida Atlantic, whatever, I mean, congratulations, but good luck. It's Florida Atlantic, right? 3 years later, he's got a national championship on his resume at Michigan, and now he's in the NBA. From Florida Atlantic, a nobody, to an NBA head coach, being able to coach one of the bright young stars, apparently, in the NBA in Cooper Flagg. I mean, you talk about your world changing. I mean, that is changing for this dude. So, but I want to see, we were kind of joking. I don't know what you could do these days in college sports to break the rules. There are no rules. I mean, old days, all right, you went to a guy's house and you paid him a couple $1,000. You paid the mom and dad, you bought them a trailer, you bought them a car, paid the mortgage payment, whatever the case may be. But that's all legal now. You don't have to do that. So I don't know what he could have done at Michigan that would force him to leave his job. Maybe get a slap on the wrist. Maybe he called up a recruit too many times. Maybe he called the recruit up too early. There's certain times of the year that you're allowed to call these recruits and go after them. Maybe he stepped on some toes going after some kids who made verbal commitments to other schools. But not to the point where I have to leave because we're going to have our championship taken away. Like I said, honestly, name something. Now that we can pay the players as much as they get paid, what could he have possibly have done to force him to leave? He's got a good situation there, right? He just won a national championship. He's under no pressure. He's probably got the next 3-4 years before, okay, what have you done for me lately kind of kicks in. And no reason to think he can't, in this recruiting world with NIL deals and transfer portals, be able to do what he did last year. I know he got some transfer portal kids last year. His whole lineup was transfer portal, but who cares? That's allowed. So it'd be curious to see in a week or two if something pops up, what it is. Don't forget, we had the Jim Harbaugh situation. That was cheating. That was going to other schools' games when you're not supposed to, sending the guy there, recording the signals. I mean, that's legitimately cheating. I get why Harbaugh left. Maybe this guy was doing something similar. Maybe the rules are kind of the same. But otherwise, I don't know what he could have done that would have forced him out. So, like I said, I think it's amazing how you could just change your life completely in 3 years. 3 years, the guy goes from Florida Atlantic to the NBA Dallas Mavericks. And I wonder about Shire. Opportunities like this only come up every once in a while in your life. And if the New Orleans Pelicans, even Chicago Bulls, with Billy Donovan leaving, came a-calling, the Portland Jailblazers, as we like to call them, Sacramento Queens came a-calling. I could see Shire saying, I don't want to. No, I'm good here. Thanks. I appreciate the interest, right? But Dallas, big city, good basketball, good sports town. You'll always be second fiddle to the Cowgirls, but still, I could see him even saying no to that. But then you throw in the Cooper Flagg thing, in which, don't forget where Cooper Flagg went to college the one year with Duke, with John Shire. So he's got an opportunity to coach one of the bright stars of the game. You got to figure they're going to be good, right? Or stay at Duke and deal with all the nonsense of college sports. That, like I said, any other team, I could see him just say, no, I'm not interested, thanks. But to be able to coach Cooper Flagg, maybe they didn't get along as well as we thought maybe they did. Maybe we're just like, okay, we appreciate you here. But man, I would think being able to recruit him out of all the other schools that were going after him, that, they probably had a pretty good relationship. The only thing is that it would end your coaching career. How so? You just said they're going to win. Yeah, they are going to win. I don't doubt that. I don't know about a championship, but they're going to be good, right? But you're no longer coaching. The days of coaching and getting kids up at 6 o'clock in the morning and running wind sprints and yelling at them and teaching them plays and going over the books and different things that college coaches do, that doesn't happen in the NBA. It just doesn't. If you think you're getting these guys to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, forget about it. If you think you're going to be able to yell and scream at these guys, forget about it. If you think you're going to be able to get these guys to run plays even, forget about it. Not happening. It's just not happening. You think you're going to want to, get to punish these guys for losing a couple games in a row like they do in college. Forget about it. Not happening. This is the NBA. When they make 10 times more than you do, literally, those days would be over for him. So, like I said, the days of coaching are over. For Dusty May, like I said, maybe he was edged out of town. Maybe he just sees, wow, you know what? Wetzel's right. 3 years ago, I'm picking my nose there down at Florida Atlantic, and now I'm coaching in the NBA. Let's keep the pendulum going. You know what? I could always get a job back in college, and he can. But for Shire, I wonder if he just says, nah, that's okay. I still want to coach. I still want to yell and scream. I don't know if he views himself as the next Mike Krzyzewski. Maybe that's he just wants to be a Duke for the rest of his life. They're always going to be good, right? And he hasn't won yet, and I don't think he's under any pressure to have to win a championship. So he's good there. He's Krzyzewski's guy. So there's no real pressure on him to win a championship. So maybe he just kind of looks in the mirror and says, nah, I'm good at Duke. I still want to coach. I wouldn't want to be an NBA head coach. I really wouldn't. Unless you're just paying me 10 times more than what I'm making in college, and I'm done coaching, and I'm done with dealing with college stuff and recruiting and all the backhanded things and having to pay these players. They're making more than coaches. Players, definitely. I would say 95 to 99% of NIL players are making more than the head coach. Literally, coaches don't make that much. They really don't. A couple $1 million. And as crazy as it sounds, the good player is making way more than that. So, but I would still want to be in college. Basketball, football, no. Too many players. To be a college football coach in today's day and age and deal with all those players, 75 to 100 players when you include red shirts and everything, and the money and the recruiting battles, I'll deal with recruiting 5 or 6 guys versus 75, 76. I don't know how those college coaches do it. So really don't. All right, just getting underway. Scott Wetzel's show, half hour in the books. What is a fast half hour? Still a lot to get to. We got more with the Giannis stuff. How about Wyndham Clark? Did he cheat to win the U.S. Open? And soccer and ties. Well, that's coming up next right here on FanStreamSports.com. The Scott Wetzel Show.
Hi, golfers. IndyCar Tim here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Golf Central Magazine. It's not just a golf magazine. It's the magazine for everything. Turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Head over to golfcentralmag.com and check out the latest issue. Some of the regular features in Golf Central Magazine: the Golf Bachelorette of the Month, the Golf Bachelor of the Month, the Golf Cart Girl of the Month, Golf History, Grip It and Sip It. So head over to golfcentralmag.com. It's free. It's the magazine for everything: turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Golf Central Magazine at golfcentralmag.com. We'll see you there.
Hey folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Tomstown, a premier craft distillery based in Kansas City, Missouri. Discover their award-winning lineup, including double oaked bourbon, botanical gin, and double grain vodka. Named the best craft vodka by the readers of USA Today. Available for online delivery in 40 states. Visit toms-town.com or their Kansas City distillery to explore more. Elevate your game with Tomstown, where history meets innovation. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hello, folks. Let's talk a little bit about turf life. And what is turf life? It's pretty much if your life involves turf in any way, shape, or form, you live the turf life. Go ahead and brand yourself with the turf life. Maybe a back window decal, maybe a hat. You know where you can get those kinds of things to showcase that your life revolves around sports and or anything that involves sports. If it's a sports business or sports education or just your enjoyment of the outdoors, head over to turflifeclub.com. Become a turf head. Join the club today. You can do that by going to that said website that I just told you to go to. You can snag your window decal like I was talking about or any of your other turf life accessories. Show everybody that you live the turf life, and we'll see you there over there at that turflifeclub.com.
Although it may seem tempting to go without health care insurance, the financial risk far outweighs the gain you may experience. For example, did you know if you simply broke your leg, it could cost you nearly $7,500? Put on top of that a hospital stay, you could be looking at $10,000 to $15,000. Ensuring that you don't go uncovered is so important, as according to CNBC, high medical bills are the highest contributing factor to why Americans end up taking money out of their retirement savings or worse, find themselves filing bankruptcy. So go to don'tgouncovered.com or call 800-669-1505. Now, depending on your income, you can get plans for zero premium. Our experts will guide you through the process effortlessly. They will shop many plans and find the one that's right for you. I called and I have full health coverage through Florida Blue for zero monthly premium. It's a free call. So why go uncovered? It's a huge risk. Go to don'tgouncovered.com or call 800-669-1505. That's 800-669-1505.
Orion Golf Management Solutions. Orion Management Solutions has tailored its service packages just like it tailors its approach to customers. Some owners need more supervision, while others need periodic assessment of their short-term and long-term strategies and programs. Orion can be called in to develop a business plan with the existing staff, or we can assist with the daily management of a facility or event. Either way, we make sure the client is satisfied and understands the direction the facility needs to go in order to achieve the owner's goals. Orion Management Solutions can help with owner assistance service solutions, daily course management, business plan development, monthly operations, or as-needed consulting services. Whatever your need, Orion Golf Management Solutions can help. Check out oriongolf.com.
Let's go!
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back. It is the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStream Sports, Monday through Friday debut show. Right around 2 o'clock or so Eastern time. We'll go hour and a half, and eventually we'll get into going back and forth with some of you guys and some of the feeds that you could communicate with me. So always go to the website, fanstreamsports.com to listen to the show, on YouTube. And you go to my, Twitter address, oppositepicks.com. You can send some tweets to me, and we'll get into all the fun stuff once we kind of get our feet a little wet here. So a couple of things else on the docket here that I want to bring up today. How about the Wyndham Clark thing? I'm getting to appreciate Twitter. I still call it Twitter. a little bit more, right? So we're all enthralled with Wyndham Clark, from opening bell to the end, wire to wire, wins the U.S. Championship, the U.S. Open. You talk to a lot of, golf insiders, which I'm not. He's not the most liked guy in the world. It's not necessarily just, him tearing up the clubhouse, which, oh, by the way, I kind of appreciate. I'm a little surprised that the New Yorkers didn't embrace themselves to him, because New York, the phony reputation about being rough and tough and mean, and, you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere type of thing, right? And here you have a guy that's so ticked off, he tears up the clubhouse last year at the U.S. Open, and you would think that the reputation of New York fans would appreciate that and actually like him, to tell you the truth, but they don't. From my perspective, you know what? I don't hold it against him. In fact, just the opposite. I'm actually impressed by him. I don't know what else he did. I don't know why people don't seem to like him, but they don't. He's kind of like I don't know if he's a poor man's Patrick Reed or Patrick Reed is a poor man's Wyndham Clark. I'm not sure which is worse. I think Clark still talks to his family, which is something Reed, last time I checked, did not do. So maybe Clark is actually a little bit better than Patrick Reed, right? But he has that reputation. People don't root for him. So last year, he doesn't make the cut at the U.S. Open in Pennsylvania. He tears up the clubhouse, right? So he gets in trouble for that. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I appreciate that. It shows me the guy cares. And as the number one fan thing, if your team doesn't win, you want to believe, you want to hope that the team, the players are upset about them losing as much as you are as the fan. I've always said, and it's always going to be this way in my world, the fan cares more about winning and losing than the player. So when you give me a player that, in this case, tears up a clubhouse, all right, he's not tearing up the clubhouse because he's excited he has an extra couple days off that weekend, right? He's upset. So if I put money on him, at least I know the guy's ticked off. So that's okay in my world. Whatever, fine, knock yourself out. I would give a gazillion dollars to see an NBA player who just missed a free throw in a tie game or down one with a second left, start throwing things around in the locker room. No, we don't get any of that. We don't even get close to that. Well, we get our gun stories in the locker room of the NBA. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, here's dopey Victor Wembanyama. He's celebrating after every single loss, high-fiving all his players. It's like, what are you doing, you dope? You just lost. You just lost the championship, and you're high-fiving your players. That's what you get in the NBA. So I appreciate a guy who shows some emotion and being disappointed. So anyway, on Twitter, and I think I saw this watching TV. I was hosting over at Sports Grid at the time, but I think I saw this. Ninth hole, I don't remember what his shot lead was down to. It's either 1 or 2, right? He's just off the green, and only at the U.S. Open can you just be off the green but still be in basically bad conditions. It was a high rough, right? So he's sitting there, and he's the second shot or third shot, whatever it was. And, he's taking his practice swings like we see golfers do all the time, 4, 5, 6. I'm like, hit the freaking ball, will you? So after like the 5th or 6th one, he steps forward and takes one practice swing ahead of the ball. So again, as I mentioned on the podcast, picture a ruler, right? The ball is at the 6-inch mark. And when guys take practice swings, they generally, are at the 1-2-inch mark. He took a practice swing for some reason at the 12-inch mark. Only one. And he took a step forward, 2. So it's like, that's kind of weird, right? I mean, I've watched a lot of golf. I've played a lot of golf. And I don't ever remember me doing that, first off, but throw me out the window. Watching on TV, I don't ever remember a golfer taking his, 5, 6, 7, whatever practice swings, taking a step forward and then taking one swing, like I said, 6 inches above the ball. All right, so what's the problem, though, Scott? The problem is, and the thinking is, that he's in the rough. He can't really hit his ball. Big shot. He's in the process of blowing a 6-shot lead. He's the next, Vandervelde there, right? Greg Norman. And when he took that one step forward, he stepped right behind the ball, flattened the grass, took a practice swing like he's pretending that's what he's doing, and then step back and then hit his ball. And that's not allowed. That would be a 2-shot penalty. So they could have whacked him then for a 2-shot penalty, or at the end of the round, when he signed his scorecard, they would say, no. You remember that 9th hole when you flattened the grass? That cost you 2 shots. You signed the wrong scorecard, you're disqualified. You lose. They could have done either one. I'm not sure of the rules. I have to get with our boy John Gerber about if you suffer a 2-stroke penalty, do they have to tell you that right there at that hole? Hey, you effed up? Or is it still up to you to say at the end of the round, oh, by the way, I screwed up on the 9th hole. It's really a 6, not a 4. Because the next shot ended up being like 4 feet from the hole. He putts in and he walks off there with a par. When realistically, it could have been a double bogey. Now, is there any proof he did that? No. And that's really my angst. In 2026, when we got 50,000 cameras all over the place, right? We could put cameras on drones, for goodness sake. So even if, we couldn't get behind them, Scott, because there's water there or there's trees there, put it on a drone. There's plenty of cameras on drones. The only shot I saw on NBC was from the front where he's going to hit the ball from the green. We didn't see a shot of him, at least I didn't anyway, from behind him. So I don't know what his lie really was. And I don't know if that's really what he did. But again, you would think this is not just some obscure golfer. This is the guy who's got the lead. There's got to be 50 zillion cameras on him, right? Every angle possible. He's in the process of blowing a 6-shot lead. He's falling apart at the seams. A guy who's got a hot temper. You would think there would be so many cameras following him, waiting for him to implode. And yet somehow or another, we didn't have one shot from behind him, even to the side of him a little bit to kind of prove what he was doing. Weird. This came out yesterday, so I don't know if he's still around to be asked this. Did someone bring it up to him, at the end of the round? If so, I didn't see it or hear it. But just kind of fun. The poor guy can't catch a break. Even in a win, in which he did make a number of good shots, he really did. You got to give him credit. He was like Rory McIlroy at the Masters. McIlroy at the Masters, he was all over the place, right? He couldn't hit one fairway. His fairway drives, he was among the worst. But, man, he was making so many recovery shots. And same thing with Wyndham Clark. Every time I looked up, he was in the woods. And, we had the controversy about his drop. That was another thing that, they said that wasn't fair. He was able to drop the ball a couple of times. Here's my rule on stuff like that. I don't think drops should be allowed. I really don't. I know it sounds goofy, but when you teed off and you went into the woods and there happened to be a big rock there, you knew that rock was there or that rock was there. The rock all of a sudden didn't come flying in as your ball's in the air. Whatever was there when you teed off or when you took your shot. Simple as that. So wherever the ball lands, that's where you hit it from. Now, if it goes in the water, okay, you take a drop, penalty. But being able to move sticks and twigs, and it's on a water container or a water, sprocket or whatever the case may be, too bad. Too bad. It's on the cart path, Scott. Am I going to hit on the cart path? I don't know. You managed to get it on the cart path. If you got it on the cart path, you can get it off the cart path. Simple as that. You want to, scratch up your club? Too bad. Don't hit it on the cart path. Simple as being able to make drops, because it hits a fan. I could get a drop. The fan was there the whole time. I'm okay, obviously, if it's in the water or you lost the ball, or if it's in the woods, as long as you're taking a penalty. But when you do a drop, it's for the most part, like the drops I'm talking about are no penalties. No, you got to take a penalty. Simple as that. So anyway, we don't know what Wyndham Clark was really doing. I don't know if anyone is smart enough to ask him, but it does make you think kind of interesting. What's not really interesting to me, for those that are LLs, loyal listeners, loyal watchers, LWs, is soccer. So I tried to get into it. Tomorrow, I got my list of 5 of the dumbest things about soccer. And it's a list that could really be 100. I mean, let's face it, right? But I'll limit it to 5 tomorrow. Maybe we'll go to 7. But we try and play it. I know people are interested in it, right? Got to gamble on it. So we've been playing the unders. You know, the soccer reputation, everything is 1-0, nothing, maybe, you know, 2-0, right? So we started doing that, and basically it was an exercise in futility. Since the beginning, and I may be off by one because we had a couple of matches that started at midnight, and I kind of forget if I included that. So I got to go back and double check, but I might be off by one game. But if you use the base number of 2.5, which is generally what you get in soccer matches, some big, some plus, but 2.5 is the number. We've had heading into today, we've had 44 matches. 20 have gone under, 24 over, thanks to yesterday's 3-1 over. So we kind of gave up on that a couple of days ago because it was right around 500, and they've actually scored a little bit more than I thought. So we moved on from that to something else, and that is ties. So remember last week, it was either Monday or Tuesday, we had the 4 games, and they all held up as ties, and people were talking about, boy, if you bet even $10 on a 4-tie parlay, it would pay like $10,000, right? So I said, all right, maybe that's the way we should go. Played it the next day, as everybody did. We had 4 games. They all had no ties, and they all went over as well, right? So we kind of gave up on the tie. I knew that was stupid, that was an amateur mistake. The whole world was going to do that, and no way that was going to happen 2 days in a row, right? So we kind of felt trapped to be in the public. So we gave up on it a couple of days. Then this past Sunday, we had 4 games, and 2 more ended up in ties. And then I looked it up, and at that point, it was 10 ties out of like 30, 34, 35 games or so. So if you bet $100 per se on each game, you ended up winning money. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe this is where we should go because we are getting some goals. I don't know who's better than who. Maybe we'll just do a blanket tie. So for our show, we'll start with today. For the podcast crew, we did 3 yesterday, which ended up being 0-3. First game today is underway as we speak. And unless something crazy happens, it's not going to be a tie. Portugal leads Uzbekistan 4-0 with about 10 minutes left to go. So including extra time. So that's not going to be a tie. And that wasn't supposed to be. That was like a plus 11-1. Portugal was supposed to win easily, and obviously they are. But we got 3 other ones that are, England over Ghana is a heavy favorite. But we might get a tie. That's like 6-1. FanDuel has that. Last time I checked, it's 6-1. It is still 6-1. Panama, Croatia is plus 350 for a tie. And then Colombia and the Congo is plus 3-1 for a tie. So we'll start. That'll be our Scott Wetzel show, FanStream Sports, first bet of the day of our show. Ties in soccer. So if a tie is like kissing your sister, as we said earlier, let's hope your sister is good looking. It's a shame, right? All you really need to do is hit 1 out of every 4. That's it. If the average payoff is plus 3 and change as it is, and some of these are a lot higher, like the England one, all right? All you need to go is 1-3. 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, and you'll win money. And realistically, 5-0 Portugal. Wow. Realistically, a lot of these are even higher than that. So it's probably like 1 out of every 5 and you'll win money. We probably have, I don't know how many more matches left when you consider all the elimination matches, like 25, 30 matches or so left, something like that, I imagine. So we need to go about 8 or 9 and 22 to order to win money. So if you were smart, and we're not, we would, scale this thing. Start at $25 for 3-4 games. No winner, bump it up to $50, 3-4 games. No winner, bump it up to $100. That I'll allow you guys to do that. It'll be a little bit too complicated to do that for our purposes here with the show. But we'll just do basis on $100, and we'll start with England and Ghana, and let's hope we make some money. You got to have some rooting interest with this stuff. So, 24-20 over. Well, 25-20 with this first game, right? Is this the first game of the day? Yeah. At 5-0, this obviously went over. So we have had more overs than unders. And then the ties will be 12 out of 43 games. So right around that 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 5, at least you're winning some kind of money. So hopefully that continues. But I think soccer's it's a tough sport, man. It's really the more you watch it, the more you just get like, I don't get it. I don't, like I said, I'll hold off on that until tomorrow. But some of the goofy rules and just dopey things, like I just don't get why they can't stop the clock. Out of all the dumb things that are involved in soccer, why does the clock have to be a mystery? It's like baseball. Like, you know what? You don't have 27 outs. You really only have 25. Sorry. You really got, 32. Sorry. I mean, not knowing how much time is left. 2-minute warning in football. Oh, by the way, it says 5 seconds left. You really got a minute 55. We're going to add time. We didn't tell you about that, but little secret surprise for you. We're adding time on that. You talk about controversies and things being rigged nowadays with the legalization of sports. You couldn't get away with that in the United States. You just couldn't. I mean, again, picture, 2-minute warning and you're down to 55, 25, 35 seconds. And all of a sudden the referee holds up a score clock saying, nope, there's a minute 55 left. I mean, people would just outrage. NBA, same thing. All right, there's 10 seconds left. You're down 5. You know what? You got a shot because now there's really 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. It is so dumb. It's not even funny. So there are a number of things, that being one of them. Serena is back. Did you see that? Serena Williams. Listen, I've never been a big fan or detractor of hers. I appreciate it. She's probably the best tennis player we've ever seen. If you want to go by prime, it's either her or her sister. I grew up in the days of the Chris Everett and the Martina Navratilova and all those. There really only have been, it's not like men's tennis where you could rattle off 15, 20 really good players, right? Women's tennis, that's really not the case. Outside of Serena and Venus, it goes all the way back to Chris and Martina. And those two completely dominated women's tennis back then, just like Serena and Venus did in the 2000s, 1990s, or whatever, those 20 years. It's really just been those four. And from that point, there's been a number of other tennis players, women's side, that have been really good, but none that compared to those four at all. Whereas the men, like I said, there's been a zillion of them, whether it's Sampras or, the Joker. There's always been different guys that have just kind of carried the torch a little bit. But so I know a lot of people say, go away. You got kids now and everything else. But you know what? If she wants to play, she's only 44. I happen to be a tad older than that. So it's like I can appreciate somebody. I'm not dead. I'm still out there refereeing, basketball games and having fun. And why shouldn't she, right? Her interest doesn't wane. Maybe her ability does a little bit. But if she's still interested and they're willing to pay her, and I don't doubt for a second they're paying her money, to be able to, compete a little bit. Yeah, okay. I had my kids. I was with the husband. Like all husbands and all wives, they turn out to be nags and pain in the asses, right? And she says, get me the fudge out of the house. And what do? I play tennis. So, okay, I'll pick up the tennis racket and start playing again. So she never really, really retired. She already has the record for the oldest person to win a major. So she's 44 years old now. She's not winning. She might not even win a match, honestly. I'm curious to see what the odds will be. She's obviously the public figure, but she's going in as a wild card, so she could be easily facing two things. One, it'll be interesting to see who they face her up against. Will they give her a ranked player, in which she'll probably lose, or will they have her face another, unknown, unranked, or lower ranked player so she has a fighting chance to win? I got a feeling they're going to do the latter. I do. But I'll be curious to see the draw, and then I'll be curious to see what the odds will be. I will be betting against her. I'll be rooting for her, but I'll be rooting against her. So, but I don't think she's going to win. But she's going to be, back with her sister playing. I enjoy tennis. I like tennis. Used to cover the U.S. Open many moons ago when I was working for WINS, local AM radio station here in New York City. And used to go out there all the time. And so I enjoyed the game. Never really played it, but I actually do enjoy it. So she's going to team up with her sister. That'll be a must-see event. Her singles match will be must-see TV, I'm sure. And while I wouldn't be surprised if she won a match, maybe even two, But I don't, I wouldn't be surprised if she got anything more than that. So I see where Edmonton is hiring Mike Babcock. The last one before we let you go here. It's amazing how things are just retread after retread after retread in the NHL. Is he a good head coach? It's debatable, but he's got a Stanley Cup championship on his resume, so he's not a slouch, right? But he got fired in Columbus 3 years ago, if you remember the story, to wanting to see pictures on players' phones. I don't know what kind of pictures he thought he was seeing. I don't know if he thought there was porno pictures or pictures of him that they took or pictures of plays they were designing that he thought the players were giving the other team to sabotage him. I don't know what he thought about that, but so the league does an investigation, and even the league in its investigation sent out a release. And let me read it to you exactly because I don't want to misphrase them. Because the wording they used was like, the guy's a little strange, but we can't prevent him from being hired. The league has completed its review of the Mike Babcock tenure at Columbus and certain alleged conduct associated therewith. The statement said, our investigation has concluded that even in a light least favorable for Mr. Babcock, there's no current basis to restrict him, in essence, getting a job. So even they, instead of just saying, no, he's clean, fire away, congratulations, go knock yourself out. Even they had to say, yeah, even in a light least favorable to Mr. Babcock. What does that mean? I mean, really, what does that mean? Sounds like it's more than just him looking at his players' phones, right? He must be a strange dude. I mean, a lot of these guys are. Players Association gave their endorsement, even though they even said the conduct was very concerning, but they believe he'll uphold the high standards required of NHL coaches. So both organizations put this little red flag in their statements where they really didn't have to. I don't get why Edmonton would do this. I really... and apparently the players signed off on it. Now, think about this. Retread after retread after retread, right? Edmonton hires Mike Babcock. He's been around forever. Failure for the most part. LA Kings this offseason hired Peter Laviolette, fired by everybody. I think this is literally his 9th team. Fired, failure for the most part. Toronto hires Jim Hiller, fired by the LA Kings this past year. Couldn't get it done with the LA. Toronto says that's okay. Come on board. Failure. Vegas hires their AHL affiliate, i.e. their AAA coach, if you will. Ryan Craig. He takes over for John Tortorella, who they said, thanks, for the great run, but we don't want you. So think about this. The 3 teams who haven't won squat in eons, Edmonton, LA, Toronto, hire has-beens, retreads. Vegas, which has been to not 1, not 2, but 3 Stanley Cup championships in 9 years. 3 in 9 years of their existence. They hire their affiliate guy. You can say what you want about Vegas. They do run some weird practices, not allowing Bruce Cassidy, who they fired, to interview for other head coaching jobs, bringing in Tortorella for just, a playoff run in essence, and not giving him the head coaching job like he clearly wanted. But at least they're the one team so far this season that reached out into their minor league system and gave the guy a shot. I mean, I feel bad for these coaches on the minor leagues. I mean, that must burn them to know. There's got to be a lot, right? I don't follow it that closely, but there's got to be a ton of minor league head coaches that are very, very successful, that have been doing this for years and years and paying their dues. And then they open up the newspaper and they see Peter Laviolette getting hired. What, again? Mike Babcock, they ran his ass out of the league for being a dope. He's getting a job again? Jim Hiller, who did squad with the LA Kings, one failed playoff run after another. He's getting another opportunity. And here I am down in the minors doing whatever I have to do to be successful, and I can't get a shot. That's got to be so frustrating. Like, you tend to forget about who's applying for these jobs. There's a lot of guys. This is not just like one or two guys. You probably have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 guys sending in their resumes, making phone calls, having their agents call up. Hey, my guy's interested. Take a look at him. You just tend to isolate on who eventually got the job. But there's a lot of guys that go for these jobs. And just to see the same names over and over again. And, if you're Edmonton, I was talking about this on the podcast. Connor McDavid's in the last year of his contract. I'm a big hockey guy. I like hockey, right? So they want to be able to re-sign him. And he's kind of offered them an ultimatum. Either we win or I'm out of here. This is the last hope, right? So they did go to the players, and the players apparently signed off on bringing in Babcock. But the main guy is Connor McDavid, right? If Connor McDavid says, I don't like this guy, don't hire him, they're not hiring him. I don't care if all 24 other players say, yeah, we love this guy. He's the greatest thing in the world. If McDavid says no, they're not hiring him. So I have to assume McDavid said it's okay. The question is, why did McDavid say it's okay? What do you mean? Well, did he say it's okay because he likes them and he appreciates the experience he has and he thinks he's going to take this team over the top? Or did McDavid say, I'm out of here anyway? You know what? I got one more year. I've already made up my mind. I'm done. We're not winning. We go through head coaches like it's nobody's business. Every other year, we fire the guy. We're not winning here for whatever reason. I'm done. So go hire whoever you want. I'm not going to stand in the way. I'm not going to say don't hire this guy. We don't win with the next guy, and then I leave, and I'll look like the villain. So you know what, Oilers? You want to hire this guy? Do whatever you want. I got a feeling that's what happened. I have a funny feeling that he just said, I know I'm out of here after one more year. We can win the Stanley Cup championship, and I'm out of here. So go hire whoever you want. I'm not going to stand in the way of it. If the other guys want him, knock yourself out. I think that's honestly what happened. So Mike Babcock, another guy, just run of the mill, whatever, retread after retread after retread. So, all right, 5-0. Portugal is your final. Next game starts at about an hour or so, 4 o'clock Eastern time, England and Ghana. So you want to hop on board? We'll have some fun with our soccer ties bets and hopefully make a couple of shekels. We will do a lot more gambling in the ensuing shows. Kind of a slow day right now. Not many great baseball matchups. A lot of lousy pitchers. Our play of the day is over 8.5 in the Cubs Mets game. If it plays, it's looking a little bit better weather-wise here in New York, but it was raining all day yesterday. It got rained out, and it was raining again this morning. But it looks like they will, be able to get that one in. I see Tiger Woods, just looking at some of the headlines, I see Tiger Woods will make his first public appearance. It did anyway since his DUI. That'll be interesting. Not exactly sure what he said or will say, but all right, we'll definitely get into that tomorrow for sure. We got the NBA draft lottery tonight. We'll see if Davensa is the number one pick with the Washington Wizards. Figures it will be. We're here in New York. We can't gamble on that, and I wouldn't gamble on that stuff. I really wouldn't. And I'll gamble on anything. But picking on where a guy is going to go, you're trying to read a GM's mind when you don't really have any information. I wouldn't waste your time. I just assume bet on the WNBA, which, by the way, we actually got a pretty good game. New York Liberty and Las Vegas, 2 best teams in the WNBA later on tonight, if you're interested in that. So Geno Smith in a little bit of trouble. I saw that, him and his goofy ex-girlfriend. They're all nuts, folks. They're all nuts. So got through it today. First hour in the books. Pretty good job. Feel free. Got a couple of tweets as well. We'll do more of that in the ensuing shows. So every day, Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, right here on FanStream Sports. Have yourself a great Tuesday, folks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow right here. FanStreamSports.com.